Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be doing a tier list of the best units for F2Ps to invest into in Honkai Star Rail. Now obviously I make a lot of F2P content, so I think it's finally about time I make a tier list of what in my opinion are the best units to invest into and pull if you are an F2P. We are going to be including every unit from version 1 and the standard banner, you know, whether you should invest into any of the standard banner characters, all the way up to 2.4 as of today, where Yunli has released. With that being said, when it comes to the tiers, we're mostly going to be considering how strong the unit is and also if they're worth pulling. You know, maybe they've been power crept, maybe there's better alternatives, or maybe it just takes a lot to invest into them. Maybe they need their signature light cone, certain characters to pull, which isn't very good for free-to-plays. So yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be considering here. Now S tier is going to be the units which you definitely should be pulling and investing into if you're an F2P. F is, you know, basically you should never consider, and then obviously they're ranked between the tiers. And with that being said, let's start off right away. Now this is going to be a quick one. Yanqing, F tier, you should absolutely never invest into him. Jingu is the better ice unit, he has no niches whatsoever, so that's an easy F tier. Now Clara could have been a character up for discussion maybe about 2 versions ago, but now we had Bootle and Yunli released, so she is basically going to be in... I honestly might want to put her in the F tier, but there are some niche cases, I guess, where you can put Clara, so I guess you can put her in the D tier because she does see some use nowadays. Now's kind of like where the tier list gets real, and that's going to be for Himiko. Now, also, I shouldn't point out, we're considering all of MOC, Pure Fiction, and Apocalyptic Shadow, so you can get as many Jades as possible. And when it comes to that, Himiko, I would probably put her in the B tier. The reason being, she is absolutely top tier in Pure Fiction. However, if I'm being honest, I would weigh Pure Fiction less out of the other 2 game modes because I feel like Pure Fiction is probably the easiest because you can normally cheese it with some, you know, no DPS clears and stuff like that. I'd say MOC is probably the highest priority, with Apocalypse Shadow being second and Pure Fiction being third, just because it is so specific for the turbulence. For example, if you have a DOT one, it will very much favor DOT, which is why I wouldn't prioritize Pure Fiction as much as Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow. That being said, in the past, you would basically never use her in MOC or AS. However, thanks to Super Break, which has emerged, you know, there are some niche cases where you can use her. Obviously, you can buy her signature icon, or you can use the craftable, which I think gives you like 46 or 48 crit value from the Lycon store for the endgame modes, which is very useful. You know, her build's pretty diverse. For a break build, you can run the Kalpani set, or you can run Sigonia for Pure Fiction, or you can run Salsoto if you just want to play her as a follow-up DPS. You know, there's a lot you can do with Himiko, and considering the fact that she compared well with a lot of characters on this list, as well as the fact that, you know, she's just really good in Pure Fiction and has a niche in the others, I'm probably going to put her in the B tier for now. And with that being said, next up we have Zila, who obviously back in the day very much was an S tier character, but I would probably put Zila now in the C tier. Now, she is actually really close to being a B tier to me. The thing is, you know, her teams, although the Mono Quantum requires some specific characters, you can just use Bronya instead of Sparkle. You know, you don't need Silverwolf. Obviously, Silverwolf is nice, although you can also run a Rowan Mei, Pela, Jiao Cho even when he releases, Robin, just, you know, any decent buffer other than Tingyun, because her buff is tied to Zila's turns, which can get a bit messy. It's better if you have a character whose buff is linked to their own turns. Just the one problem with Zila is that her numbers aren't as high as like a Doctor Ratio or as a Bootle over time. Her DPS just isn't as good. She is a bit of a jack of all trades. She can be used in MOC, Pure Fiction, and Apocalyptic Shadow. You know, Pure Fiction a bit more niche, especially nowadays where there are higher HP pools, but if you run her in like a Herta Himiko core with like a Rowan Mei, that's what I did in the most recent Pure Fiction where there's a ton of quantum weakness, so, you know, she definitely does have her use cases there. And then, you know, hyper-invested Zealers are pretty good in Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow, so I'd say she definitely has her place in the meta. It's just there are a lot of other strong hunt characters, although the good thing for her is that there's no other quantum unit. I mean, obviously Jade is a quantum unit, but I'd say Zeala's probably a bit better and more universal than Jade, so I would actually put Zeala in the C tier. Now, Jinguan used to be a lot stronger back in the day just because we didn't have as many DPS. I'm personally going to put Jinguan in the D tier, although this does pain me because he's on the cusp of making C tier for me. But there's just a couple of things. First of all, you need Sparkle to boost up your action. Bronya won't work, so you don't have the freedom between choosing either of them as you do with Zila. He is definitely better for Pure Fiction, however there are also better Pure Fiction units like Himiko, Herta, who's free, Dot Teams, and most importantly, he's a lightning DPS, and we already have Arron, who is also a lightning DPS and one of the best in the game. So honestly, Jinguan, he's just not really worth your pull in 2024 if I'm being completely honest. You know, he is decent, he's gotten a lot of buffs because there's a lot of follow-up units, there's Sparkle, and then you can even use Jinguan in super break teams, but I'm gonna be completely honest, until we get a unit, you can speed up the speed of summons. I don't see Jinguan going up, and that might not happen for a while. So for that reason, I'm honestly going to be putting Jinguan in the D tier. Now, next up is Blade, another character who is on the cusp. You know, I'd say he's in between C and D. Me personally, for the time being, I'm going to put Blade in C. You know, you can pair him with Bronio, who obviously you can go off standard. And then for your next spot, you can use anyone from Xingqiu to Ruanmei to Pela to Jade. For sustained links is very viable, especially on him because he has a very high HP pool, so he shouldn't get killed when you're running him with basically any sustain. And the thing with Blade is that there is a lot of potential for him to get better. You know, there's no HP buffers in the game, there's no good HP icon for him, which obviously puts him down, but at the same time it gives him a lot of room to improve. He does have a niche in Pure Fiction, just Blade's sort of problem is that there's no one game mode that he really excels at. You know, a lot of destruction units are really good in MOC. I'd say Blade is decent in MOC, especially if there's wind weakness, but if there isn't, it's incredibly cope. And the problem for Blade, which I'm not really considering in this list, is that obviously Fei Xiao is going to be our next DPS coming out, and we know she is a wind hunt unit, which means she will definitely overtake him in Apocalyptic Shadow, and probably will in Memory of Chaos. I don't see why she wouldn't. Probably not for Pure Fiction, I would guess not, but, you know, it's a bit rough for Blade. You know, there is a lot of room for him to improve, but because there isn't another wind unit at the moment, and there is much more potential for him to improve than any of the other units down here, I would probably put Blade in the C tier for now. I personally, although I love Blade, obviously you should just pull for whoever you like, but I will say, from a meta perspective, I would not be pulling Blade in 2024 unless one day he gets massive buffs with a dedicated support and maybe a better icon than he already has. Now, Dhung, Imbibitor Lene. Back in the day, S tier would probably go down to an A tier, but me, nowadays, honestly, I'm gonna put Dhung in a B tier, and honestly below Himiko. I think Dhung E0 without Signature Light Cone, and especially without Sparkle, feels horrible. He is very reliant on Sparkle, as well as the enemy being imaginary weak. And the problem that Dhung has is there is another very strong imaginary DPS who I would actually put above him. So, you know, although you can pair him with a 4-star unit like Xingqiu and then just slot in a sustainer, I don't think Dhung is that valuable for you to pull, especially because many of us will own a Doctor Ratio. I mean, if you own a Doctor Ratio, I'd say Dhung's pull value is down here, if not down here even. If you have a Sparkle, that he doesn't go lower than a C, but if you don't have Sparkle, if you have Doctor Ratio, he might as well be a D tier. I would not touch Dhung if you don't have Sparkle and Doctor Ratio. I've tried, I love Dhung so much, but honestly, my Dhung just doesn't keep up anymore. I'd say he's maybe one of the least F2P friendly units that is in the game right now. I very much would not recommend building him, although he can be strong in Memory of Chaos. You know, you really want him either E2, Signature Lycon, and with Sparkle. And honestly, I'll be real, I would not be pulling for Dhung nowadays. But next up, Jingu, there was a lot of discussion whether her or Dhung is stronger. I'd definitely say that nowadays, Jingu is stronger, whereas Dhung is not the premium imaginary character nowadays. I'd say that Jingu definitely is the strongest ice character in the game. You can pair her with one of Sparkle or Bronil, so you do have a choice with more with her, because she isn't as reliant on SP points as Dhung is, and that's the real killer for him. And then you can just run any healer and then run her with like a Pela, especially E4, or a Ruanmei, even a Blade if you like. Jiaocho will also be pretty good for her when she comes out. I would say the same for Dhung, but Dhung is more SP hungry, and yeah, we don't exactly know how that synergy is gonna work. Again, she is better for MOC than she is for Pure Fiction or Apocalyptic Shadow, but I would keep her in the B tier for now on top. But I'll definitely put her over Dhung, but at the same time, she has definitely fallen off. She's not as strong as she used to be. I'd say the Aventurine boss fight where he wastes a lot of your time really shows you how fragile Jingu can be sometimes. You know, you do want all of her buffs to be up all the time, otherwise you will have a pretty bad time playing her. Bronya is basically a must, but because you can get her off standard, it's not as big of a problem, whereas Dhung is very reliant on a limited 5-star. So yeah, that's why I would put Xingqiu just on the top of the B tier, but definitely not as high as she used to be. Now, Argenti, and this might be a bit of a hot take. I'm going to put Argenti in the D tier. Once again, similar to Clara, we already have a ton of physical weakness. You know, you have Bootle for MOC and Apocalyptic Shadow, then you have Yunli, who you can run in Pure Fiction and an MOC. So I'd say that Argenti, you don't need him as a physical carry anymore. And similar problem to Jinguan, where in Pure Fiction, Dot is so strong, Hata Himiko is so strong, other units like Arron are so strong, Yunli is very viable. I would just put Argenti in the D tier. I really don't think you need him nowadays. But next up we have formerly a free DPS, not anymore, but we have Dr. Ratio, who I'm actually going to put in the A tier. I heard a lot of people say, you know, Dr. Ratio isn't free-to-play friendly, blah, 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 you know, you need Topaz, which honestly, I don't think is true. First of all, he's very strong in Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow. You can easily run the Herta Store Lycon on him, which makes him more free-to-play friendly than other units. You could also use the Yanqing Lycon on him, which is actually pretty strong if you own that. He's easy to build because he can get a lot of crit. I mean, from his relics, the debuff relic set gives him a lot of crit. Obviously, his Lycons, both the Yanqing one and the Herta one, give a lot of crit. You know, support plane ornament sets like Broken Keel, which a lot of his supports run, also give him a lot of crit. I feel like Dr. Ratio is probably one of the easiest characters to build in the game when it comes to crit DPS. You know, break effect characters are probably easy to build, but when it comes to crit DPS, I'd say Dr. Ratio is the easiest because he can get it from a lot of sources without having to spend any money. I'm pretty sure he also has some innate in his crit, I'm pretty sure he has some innate in his kit, although might be misremembering that, but like I said, you know, it's pretty damn easy to get a lot of crit on Dr. Ratio and have him deal good damage. And you know, some people say he's reliant on certain teammates. I'd say, I mean, me personally, I run Dr. Ratio with Xingqiu and Silverwolf, and I don't have a problem. He can still clear very well. And then obviously there's also a lot of upgrade potential for him. You know, if you choose to pull a Robin, who's a very universal support, or you could pull a Topaz, who has seen so much more value nowadays than she used to. So, you know, you can choose any of Pela, Xingqiu, Silverwolf, Topaz, Robin. He probably has the most team combinations out of any DPS, which I actually think makes him even more F2P friendly, because a lot of them are 4-stars, although you can also use 5-stars. You know, like I said, a team of Xingqiu and Pela will get you free debuffs on an enemy if you have an E4 Pela, because you get the Ice Res weakness, then her Defense Shred, and then you can get one more from Dr. Ratio himself or your Sustainer. So yeah, Dr. Ratio has some good F2P teams, and that's why I would personally put him in the A tier. Now, Arron, who I'm going to put as our first S tier character. Now, our Arron is just absolutely busted. There is no question about this. I mean, and she can work with any Night Healthy unit. You don't need like Kafka Black Swan, Jiaoqiu. You know, you can run any of them. You can run Black Swan with Jiaoqiu or with Pela or with Guanifan. You know, you just have a lot of option for supports when it comes to Arron. You know, a full 4-star team of even Gallagher, who has his own debuff, or Preservation MC if you're confident in your clears, alongside someone like Guanifan Pela will work, and then you can upgrade that to a Silverwolf, or to a Jiaoqiu, or to a Black Swan, or for a Kafka if you want to play Dotcoron. You can use, she's very strong in MOC, obviously, but also Apocalyptic Shadow, because she just deals absurd amounts of damage. Pure Fiction, she's also very strong. Jiaoqiu will give her a further buff when he comes out, because he procs so many debuffs. Although Dotcoron is also very strong in Pure Fiction, which is why I would personally say that Arron is an S tier character. I personally have used her in every MOC, Pure Fiction, and Apocalyptic Shadow run I have ever done ever since she is released. She is definitely one of the strongest carries in the entire game, with a lot of build options. Obviously, her signature Lycon is nice, although you do have 2 strong 4-star options with Goodnight Sleep Well, which I only have at S1, but my Arron still does pretty good damage. And then you do also have the Boundless Choreo Lightcon available. So yeah, I'd say Arron has a few build options, and she's just very strong. There's no way I can't put her in the S tier. Now, next up, we have Bootle, who I'm actually going to put in the A tier. And Bootle, for me, he might actually be one of the most F2P friendly units. I mean, he's very strong in single target. His 2 best supports are either 4-stars or 3, obviously that being Trailblazer and Gallagher, so you can make a very strong break team with just those. And then you have a choice for Ruan Mei, who is his best in slot, especially for team DPS. But you can also use Bronya, which is very strong. And I mean, a team of Bronya, Trailblazer, and Gallagher is very F2P friendly, considering you can get Bronya from the 300 selector and you can get Gallagher from events. and you're guaranteed a Harmony Trailblazer. You know, this is one of the most F2P teams, which will also do some of the most single target damage in the entire game, which is why he is so good in Apocalyptic Shadow and Memory of Chaos. I would absolutely recommend Bootle, and he is absolutely killer if you spend the time speed tuning him, which you can afford to do more than crit DPS because obviously he builds break effect. So because he's easy to build, can deal a bunch of damage, and his teammates are pretty free to play friendly, I would personally put Bootle in the A tier. And I am now realizing that we forgot to put Firefly up here. I'm sure some people were screaming at their screens. Firefly has to be an S tier. Once again, break, easy to build, 2 very good 4 stars. She is more reliant on Raal Mei than Bootle is, but at the same time, she just deals so much damage. I mean, you can use her in Pure Fiction of Himiko, and then you can just use the break team in Apocalyptic Shadow and Memory of Chaos. If you already have a Bootle, you probably already have her premium team. And once again, she's just easy to build because she is a break effect unit. And I mean, we all know how much crazy damage she does. She's easy to build. There is no reason as to why she shouldn't be S tier. I mean, even her signature light cone isn't that necessary on her, so I definitely think she is an S tier character. And next up, we have Jade. Now, Jade, I'm sorry, another Pure Fiction unit is going in the D tier once again. She's not good in Memory of Chaos or Apocalyptic Shadow. You're better off using Zila, who's a 1.0 character. You know, in Pure Fiction, again, I don't rate Pure Fiction as highly as the other game modes. You can just run her to Himiko, you can just run Dot, you can just run Arron, you can just run Super Break, you can just run Firefly. You know, I really don't think that's a good enough reason to pull for Jade. And yeah, I've already used this points on a lot of characters. I mean, she's not the premium quantum support, Pure Fiction locked, nothing amazing. I would personally put Jade in the D tier. And that will leave us with only Yunli left, our newest DPS. Now, I'm going to put Yunli in the A tier myself. You know, she's strong in all 3 of the game modes. You know, once again, another physical unit with, so, you know, RIP Argenti. Lynx is very good for her as a 4-star sustain. You know, Tingyun is also very good for batterying her, so she uses a lot of 4 stars. Pela is a good 4-star unit to round out the team. Although, if you have a Robin, she'll do even better damage. You know, she is definitely up to 2.0 standards of DPS. Now, the one problem with Yunli is obviously her signature icon will help with her taunt, which will make her just a bit easier to play. And it's unlikely we're going to get a taunt icon anytime soon, which is what prevents her from being S tier for me. But because she is so strong in the other game modes, I would still put her at an A. So yeah, with that being said, that is my tier list for all of the DPS in Star Rail. So with this being said, you know, who should you pull for? And so what you can do is you can get both Arron and Firefly, and you'll have 2 units which are incredibly strong in all of Pure Fiction, Memory of Chaos, and Apocalyptic Shadow. If you don't want to go down that route, I would recommend getting one of these. And if you have a Firefly and you already own a Dr. Ratio, then I would pull for a Yunli, just because there's no overlap between their teams. Whereas if you want to pull for Bootle, I'd probably go for Arron. And then you can just have some very strong teams and then build, you know, like a Herta Himiko team for Pure Fiction. And you should basically be golden for all of the endgame modes. Me personally, I wouldn't really recommend pulling for anyone below the A tier for purely meta reasons. But at the end of the day, just pull for whoever you like. I'm a Blade main. I'll forever be a Blade main. I'll forever love Blade. So, you know, meta, who cares? Just pull for who you want. But if you do want to look at meta, these top 5 would be who I would be recommending. With that being said, hopefully you guys found this video enjoyable, useful. Be sure to leave your own opinions in the comment section below. If you think I got anything wrong, be sure to let me know. Give me your justifications. You know, I welcome any discussion. Just hopefully the comment section doesn't get overly toxic. But yeah, like I said, any constructive criticism or just valid discussion phrased well is welcome. I would love to discuss people's opinions and their thoughts. And with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.